The sea never lies, and it never negotiates. At 6:42 a.m. on Tuesday, it spoke to Venezuela with terrifying silence. For hours, they had been tracked without the slightest clue. Just 2 nautical miles from their patrol line, the Caribbean surface erupted not from a storm or some creature, but from a force rising out of the depths no one had anticipated. 30 feet of seawater shot skyward as 7,800 tons of American black steel punched through the surface like a waking nightmare. No warning, no distress signal, only quiet, absolute power. On the bridge of Venezuela's patrol ship Guapiro, every screen flipped from calm blue to blazing red in half a second, signaling the nightmare had truly begun. A coffee cup hit the deck. The sonar operator's hand froze, and the captain stood speechless at the window. What he saw shouldn't have been there, but it was right in front of him. A Virginia-class nuclear attack submarine, the most sophisticated killing machine ever built, was surfacing silently less than 2 nautical miles away, tracking the Venezuelan ship's every move. They hadn't detected it until it chose to appear. This story isn't just about technology, it's about power, and the thin line between surveillance and provocation. Because when a $3 billion vessel breaks the surface inside Venezuela's waters, it's no accident, it's a message hammered in steel. A reminder that the underworld of the ocean has its true masters. Guapiro is no small ship. It's the pride of the Venezuelan Navy. Outfitted with Italian systems and engines capable of 24 knots, this morning's mission was routine patrol, secure the area, log fishing boats. Calm seas, clear skies, everything seemed in order. But in a single swell, the water split. And that calm was swallowed by a shockwave that began a confrontation nobody wanted. Sir. Disturbance bearing 086, large contact, rapidly increasing speed. The sonar operator's voice trembled not from fear, but from disbelief at the data. Nothing that size should surge upward so fast without a trace. Yet there it was, climbing out of the deep at an angle that made every maritime rule feel suddenly meaningless. The captain lunged for the console and issued urgent orders. General quarters, track and record the target. Alarms rang. Boots hammered steel decks. Sailors sprinted to combat stations they'd only rehearsed in simulations. Guapiro swung hard to starboard, engines roaring, the hull biting into a sharp turn to hold a safe offset. And then they saw it. Through frothing whitewater, the submarine's sail rose like a colossal black monolith. Water streamed down its flanks like ribbons of silver gleaming, impossibly still. A steel creature, spectral and menacing, stood motionless less than 2 nautical miles off Guapiro's bow. Range 1.9 nautical miles, the navigator reported, voice catching. The captain drew a deep breath, steadying his hands. Keep filming, no transmissions. Everyone on deck knew what they were facing. A U.S. great nuclear-powered fast attack submarine, carrying Tomahawks and Mark 4.8 torpedoes enough to sink a fleet. And now it had surfaced not to hide, but to make clear it had been there all along. Its acoustic signature was virtually nil, so silent that hostile subs had passed within 1,000 yards, none the wiser. This wasn't a chance appearance, it only surfaced to send a message. And this morning, in Venezuelan waters, that message glittered like steel in the first light. We are always here. The standoff began. At 6:47, this was no longer a routine encounter. The submarine didn't advance or retreat. It lay there on the surface, half in, half out of the sea, its sail pointing at Guapiro like an invisible gun barrel. The range held steady. Tension spread through the Venezuelan ship until everyone was holding their breath, half in fear, half in awe. On the bridge, the air felt dense. Officers moved slowly, as if afraid to disturb the water. Every eye pinned to the plotter, where that dark silhouette sat squarely in their path. Range 1.6 nautical miles, the navigator murmured, barely above a whisper. The silence stretched thin, like a wire strung between two nations. The captain tightened his chin strap. Voice rough. Hold course. 1 to 5 knots. Visual watch only. In the comms room, the sonar operator pressed the cups tighter over his ears, straining for any sign of motion from the American sub. Nothing, no prop noise, no vibration, no machinery. Only the vast hush of a force that had mastered the sea. The commander knew he was facing consummate professionals, warriors, playing this game at depths he could not reach. Then a tone rang out. A single, perfect, deliberate ping. Not a threat, but impossible to ignore. A cold nod, reminding the world who controlled these waters. The captain's chest tightened. He keyed the intercom, voice calm to the point of chill. All stations maintain condition watch, weapons hold, no provocations. On deck, 12.7mm gunners stood by their mounts, barrels level at no one but ready. They knew a single misstep, a single misread signal, could turn this sea into a battlefield. Every camera aboard Guapiro was rolling, every sensor recording. Because in this era, war isn't only about who fires first, it's about who has the better evidence when diplomacy begins. Across the water, the American sub worked like a perfect clock. Cameras capturing every angle, radar reading every ripple, data streaming back to command. Acoustic arrays soaked up every frequency. The EW suite logged every radar pulse Venezuela emitted. The submarine wasn't just watching it, was dissecting, analyzing, laying bare the opponent's entire response profile. An intelligence operation perfectly disguised as a chance encounter so effective it needed not a single shot. Then the pivot came. At 6:57, the sub canted 10 degrees to port. A small move. Quiet, but in the grammar of naval warfare. A sentence, a message written in steel, short and sharp. We're looking right at you. No radar required, just the silhouette. Carrying pure deterrence. Sir, it's turning toward us, the watch officer blurted, urgency rising. The captain squinted at the bearing board. Course 084, now 083. The submarine had brought its nose around, inscribing a cold, straight line pointing at them. In the naval world, when a ship points its bow at you, it's never accidental, it's a warning that needs no translation. The captain took 2 seconds to decide. Come left, hold parallel aspect. Speed 1 to 5 knots. Keep 1 mile separation. Guapiro slid sideways across the swell, heeling slightly as the engines thundered. It wasn't just an evasive maneuver, it was a statement. We see you, and we're not backing down. The sea between them lay flat, but beneath it, 2 wills collided. In the US sub's observation compartment, the commander sat silent, peering through a high-resolution periscope. Every movement of Guapiro was logged in detailed turn angles, speed, reaction times. Nothing escaped them. They didn't need to attack, they were studying, testing, measuring the opponent's response in glacial silence. Because the essence of this game is neither territory nor weapons, it's information. Range closing to 1.0, the exec reported. The captain nodded. The 2 vessels held their positions for 3 minutes. The Caribbean sun climbing, light glittering on the sub's wet hull, turning the encounter into a wordless duel where the weaker side could lose by breathing too loud. The sea kept rolling, indifferent to the tension between the 2 warships. Then, without warning, the submarine dipped its bow, steel nose angling toward the abyss. White water curled, spiraled, and vanished. The sail sank as if the ocean itself swallowed it. In 20 seconds, the $3 billion machine was gone, leaving the surface smooth, as if nothing had ever been there. Only a faint trace on radar lingered, and then it, too, faded. The Caribbean sealed shut, cold and absolutely silent. Guapiro rocked gently in the swell. The crew looked around as if waking from a bad dream. They knew they hadn't seen a mirage but learned a lesson. Sometimes power doesn't need to roar, it only needs to appear at the right moment, then vanish as if it never existed. At 7:03 a.m., Guapiro was alone again on a tranquil sea. Mark last coordinates, the captain ordered, voice steady but weighted. Save all data. For the next 10 minutes, the ship swept the area, trying to reacquire the intruder. Nothing. The steel Leviathan had slipped deep into a layer of silence. Venezuelan sensors had never touched. 200 feet below, the U.S. crew worked with laboratory precision. Acoustic sensors confirmed no pursuit. The mission log was encrypted. Every detail of the opponent's reaction time, maneuvering, and sonar cadence was sent to U.S. Southern Command over a narrow channel. A flawless intelligence haul, no guns, no casualties. On Guapiro's deck, the air remained heavy. Sailors breathed again, slow, deep, as if afraid to disturb the leftover stillness. The captain stood at the window, eyes fixed on the patch of sea where the American sub had slipped away. He understood this wasn't a maritime mishap, but a cold reminder. These waters remain within the strong party's reach, even when they never say it out loud. To grasp the meaning of this encounter, you have to look beyond the radar scope. For months, the U.S. Navy has run Operation Sentinel South, an anti-smuggling and weapons interdiction mission in the Caribbean. But that patrol line sits right where Venezuela claims an extended security zone, a gray gap between law and power, where every move is calculated to the nautical mile. The submarine's appearance wasn't random, it was a strategic move. The message was crystal clear. We can operate anywhere, anytime, and you'll only know when we want you to know. Virginia-class boats are built for that, vanishing for months, shadowing everything on the surface, collecting what satellites might take weeks to piece together. When a U.S. sub surfaces near a patrol zone, it's not a malfunction. It's a declaration that the mission is complete. For Venezuela, it's a true nightmare. Their coastal surveillance is designed to catch smugglers, not a nuclear ghost that can appear and vanish like the ocean's breath. Both nations know exactly how dangerous these waters are. Washington calls it freedom of navigation. Caracas calls it an intrusion on sovereignty. Between those definitions, the ocean becomes an invisible chessboard where any wave can set off a diplomatic crisis, capable of shaking the entire Caribbean. Neither side wants to fire, but both must show strength. For Washington, it's law enforcement and sea lane security. For Venezuela, it's national dignity and pride. Between those two claims lies a blurred line where a single misstep can push the world closer to real conflict. That morning, in the Caribbean, the United States executed a textbook gray zone tactic: no shots, no threats, just making the other side feel the pressure of presence. One rise, one dive, and the region understood. When the ocean is silent, it doesn't mean it's empty. It means someone is watching. If you had been the Venezuelan captain that morning, what would you have done? Hold course and face off to prove your nation won't bow? Or break away accepting that some battles can't be won by courage alone? There is no right answer, only choices weighted with risk, where silence is the strongest warning the powerful can wield. The U.S. submarine didn't need to attack, it only needed to force the other side to question itself. Holding position was dangerous. Turning away looked like concession. And that is the art of the gray zone. Winning by pressure, by presence, by the feeling of being watched with no way to strike back. That morning, in the Caribbean, initiative belonged to those who could weaponize silence. America sent a message as clear as day. True strength isn't in the blast, but in making your opponent understand they've been overmatched. No gunfire. No laws broken, just $3 billion of nuclear-powered presence rising from the deep, proving who holds the reins when the sea gets rough. For Venezuela's crew, it will be a lifelong memory, a morning when the world paused between two breaths. They'll retell it in bars and briefings, each time with a new flourish. But the haunting won't change. For the U.S. Navy, it was just another Tuesday, another lesson logged, another patrol ending in a silent victory. Because command of the ocean isn't won by gunfire, but by presence, the kind that draws every eye, even when no one hears a sound. That morning, under the Caribbean sun, that presence belonged to the United States. And one last question hangs for the audience. If you stood before $3 billion of power rising from the deep, what would you do? Share your thoughts below. Every perspective matters in a world where the line between war and deterrence is as thin as a single ripple. If this story pulled you in, hit like and subscribe. Join me as we explore the ocean's hidden realm, where the world's true power prefers to live in silence.